Beneath the quiet, bustling world of humans, hidden far beyond the reach of light, lies a kingdom unseen by mortal eyes, a vast and ancient civilization built entirely within the embrace of darkness. Here dwell the black ants, silent sentinels, disciplined warriors, and tireless workers who have thrived in perfect harmony for countless generations. Every tunnel carved through the earth, every path winding through the soil, and every movement they make is precise, purposeful, and guided by an unyielding order. They are a society bound by unity, moving as one mind and one body. But in this world, peace, no matter how deep it is buried, no matter how solid its foundations, never lasts forever. For even the strongest empires must one day face the storm. It began not with a roar, but with a subtle tremor, a violent shudder that rippled through the very foundations of their world, cracking the earth beneath their feet. Panic spread as the scouts returned, their antennae trembling with urgent news. They spoke of shadows stained crimson, moving with a terrifying purpose. These were not mere wanderers searching for food. They were invaders driven by ravenous hunger, a hunger not born of need for survival, but fueled by an insatiable lust to conquer, to dominate, and to claim everything in their path. They surged forward like a violent flood of blood, pouring through the tunnels with terrifying speed. The red ants were merciless, striking without hesitation, and relentless, never stopping to rest. Unlike others who build and nurture, they knew only one purpose: to destroy and devour everything in their path. They left nothing behind but emptiness and ruin. And now, their hungry eyes had finally fallen upon a great and powerful kingdom, one that they deemed worthy not of saving, but of utterly destroying. They came not just to take resources, but to erase existence, turning a thriving civilization into a graveyard of dust and bones. The first clash was violent and deafening, shaking the very walls of the tunnels as if the earth itself trembled in fear. Mandibles clashed together with savage fury, steel meeting steel in a deadly dance of life and death. There was no time for hesitation. Bodies fell within seconds, life fading as quickly as it had begun. The soil, once their home and sanctuary, now became their final resting place. The ground bore silent witness to the horror, as friends and foes alike fell side by side, brothers and enemies alike, all eventually buried together in the same dark soil. Yet from the smoke and chaos, a figure rose above the fray. He was not the largest among them, nor the mightiest in size, but his spirit burned brighter than any flame. He was a leader forged in battle, a veteran guardian who had stood his ground to defend these very lands in days past. His resolve was absolute, his will unbreakable. He knew the cost of freedom, and he swore a silent oath beneath the earth. He would stand firm once more, he would fight to protect his home, and he would not yield. He would drive them back, or perish trying, choosing to die buried in the soil he loved rather than see it fall to ruin. But the invaders were not mindless beasts. They were led by a power far greater and more terrifying. Deep within the shattered tunnels, buried beneath the weight of conflict, something ancient and terrible began to stir. From the shadows rose the Red Queen, a monstrous figure born of blood and war. She is the mother of destruction, the very heart of their evil empire, and her awakening signals not just a battle, but the beginning of total annihilation. From every crack, every broken passage, and every shadowed corner, the Red Army answered the call in a wave of fury. Those who had tasted battle before were no longer mere soldiers following orders. They had become fanatical believers, consumed by a dark purpose. Their minds were sharpened by war, and their hearts turned to stone. They fought not just for survival, but for an unshakable belief. Their creed was absolute and cruel. Nothing must stand, nothing must remain. They were driven by a single terrifying truth: to utterly destroy everything that dares to resist the Queen. And then, the ground shook violently, as if the very earth itself was groaning in fear. The Red Queen had arrived. She came without warning, without a sound to herald her coming. Yet her presence alone was enough to freeze the blood in their veins. There was no mercy to be found here, only absolute power and cold dread. In that terrifying instant, every black ant realized the horrifying truth. They were no longer fighting on their own land. They were deep inside her world, and in her domain. They were nothing but intruders waiting to be erased. The final line of defense finally crumbled, shattering under the impossible weight of the onslaught. It was not because their courage had failed, nor because their strength was spent, but because this fate felt written in stone. It was sheer inevitability. The red swarm surged forward like a living, breathing storm, a tidal wave of claws and fury that swallowed the darkness whole. They devoured every tunnel, every stone, and every soul that stood in their way. In that moment of total darkness, hope was no longer a strategy. It was merely a memory, and one that was fading fast. Yet amidst the crumbling walls and the sea of crimson, one figure remained standing tall in the very heart of destruction. The commander was battered and bloodied, his body wounded and his strength nearly spent from the endless struggle. Every breath was a struggle, every movement a heavy burden, but his spirit remained unbowed and his will unbroken. He looked upon the inevitable end with eyes clear and resolute. He had accepted the bitter truth. Victory was no longer possible. This was no longer a war to be won, nor a battle to claim glory. It had become something far greater, a final stand to ensure that their end would not be in vain. He would ensure that this story would conclude not with silence, but with meaning, honor, and a courage that would echo forever in the dark. With every fiber of his being screaming in pain, and every muscle in his broken body pushed past the limit, he forced himself forward. He did not march for glory, nor did he fight simply to live another breath. He moved with one single burning purpose, so that his people, his colony, would not meet their end trembling in the dark. He would make sure they fell not as victims lost in fear, but as warriors who stood their ground until the very end. When the two forces finally collided with devastating force, the very walls of the tunnel seemed to scream in agony, as if the earth itself could not bear the impact. It was a clash of titans where raw, disciplined strength met savage, primal instinct. The unbreakable will of the defender collided against the ruthless nature of the destroyer. The air grew thick and heavy, and in that blinding instant of impact, the world stood still. Time itself seemed to pause, holding its breath, witnessing the moment where fate hung in the balance. When the dust finally settled and the chaos faded away, a heavy stillness returned to the earth. But this was no longer the comforting silence of home. It was hollow, cold, and absolute. It was the terrifying silence of loss, a quietness born from the absence of life and the weight of what was gone. The tunnels stood empty, the paths were broken, and the order they once knew was gone forever. In this stillness, the truth was clear. Their world had been shattered, and nothing would ever be the same again. Slowly, from the deep shadows and the rubble of what was once their great kingdom, the survivors began to emerge. They were battered, their bodies broken and bleeding, bearing the heavy scars of the brutal conflict. They had lost everything, yet their spirits remained unbowed. They were not defeated. Amidst the cold ashes and the silence of the battlefield, they carried within them a flame that could not be extinguished. It was a power far greater than fear, a burning determination to rise again, to heal their wounds, and to forge a new future from the ruins. From the midst of the survivors, a new queen was chosen. She ascended not merely by right of blood or birth, but forged in the fires of struggle and proven by her will to survive. The old traditions, the gentle laws and soft codes of the past, had crumbled and fallen alongside those who perished. They were left behind in the graves of the old world, and in the empty space where they once stood, a new order was born. She would lead them not just to live, but to endure, a kingdom rebuilt to be stronger, sharpened by wisdom and pain, and forged into something far more formidable, unyielding, and undeniably ruthless. The Great War had finally reached its end. The violence silenced and the battles finished, but its long, dark shadow would stretch on forever, never truly fading away. Every tunnel they carved, every path they walked, and every step they took was now haunted by the heavy memory of what was lost and the cost of their survival. And as the sun rose once again above the world of men, casting its light upon the soil, a profound and silent truth echoed deep within the earth. They learned the hardest lesson of all: war is an impartial force. It does not choose sides, it does not care for right or wrong. It does not pick the good or the righteous. In the end, it only leaves behind one thing: the survivors. If you made it this far, you're one of the real ones. Don't forget to hit like, drop your thoughts in the comments, and share this with your friends. And if you want more stories like this, subscribe and join the journey.